Oh, welcome back, everybody. So today, continuing Horror October, we're playing a new game that just came out today, the 10th of October, 2024, by Studio bitgolem, called Dagon. So this is a narrative type of game. So it's based on the works of H.P Lovecraft. So if you are a fan of H.P Lovecraft, Cthulhu mythos, you will definitely like this game. I was invited originally last year, or the year before, when it first came out on Steam by the developers to ask if I wanted to try it out early, and I said, "Does Cthulhu poop in the ocean?" So they sent me a copy to try it early. It was a lot of fun. So now I'm gonna play it on the PlayStation 5, and there is DLC exclusive to the PlayStation. It's $10 US or $16 Canadian. So I live in Canada. So let's start the game. Dagon is a faithful interactive adaptation of H.P. Lovecraft's work, focused on story and atmosphere. You will not find difficult choices, actions, sequences, or inventory management here, and movement is limited to proceeding through locations along with the plot. So if you guys enjoy the video, please check out the game. This is not sponsored. I'm not paid by bitgolem. And if you enjoy my video, please drop a like and as well subscribe. Let's see how fast I can get to 3,000 subscribers. Let's go.
I am writing this under an appreciable mental strain, since by tonight I shall be no more.
Another game. Okay, no, I'm not going to talk about another game. Alright, so during the game you will encounter interactive elements. Some of them will allow you to continue your journey. Others reveal interesting facts about the original short story, its historical background, and the author. Some of the trivia is hidden. In order to find these secrets, focus your eyes and look for the elder sign. Right, so L1, L2 zooms in.
Penniless, and at the end of my supply of the drug which alone makes life endurable, I can bear the torture no longer, and shall cast myself from this garret window into the squalid street below.
Alright, so our dude is an addict. What else do we find to interact with?
Do not think from my slavery to morphine that I am a weakling or a degenerate.
But you are, though.
When you have read these hastily scrawled pages, you may guess, though never fully realize, why it is that I must have forgetfulness or death.
So very well designed.
It was in one of the most open and least frequented parts of the broad Pacific that the packet of which I was supercargo fell a victim to the German sea raider.
So we can advance to that, but let's see if there's anything to interact with over here.
The Great War was then at its very beginning, and the ocean forces of the Hun had not completely sunk to their later degradation.
So I
So that
haven't
our vessel was
completed
made a
it.
legitimate prize, whilst we of her crew were treated with all the fairness and consideration due us as naval prisoners.
Alright, so we have some info on the Huns. So the Huns were Central Asian nomads who established the dominion in Europe and invaded the Roman Empire in the 5th century AD. They were known as brutal, deadly warriors and masters of quick raids, who also developed powerful composite bows, lassos, and early siege weapons. So during World War I, the British used the word Hun as a synonym for Germans in order to emphasize their brutality. However, the term originated when German Emperor Wilhelm II gave a speech to his troops on the 27th of July 1900. Hey, I was born July 17. After 1900 though, before they embarked to China. Should you encounter the enemy, he will be defeated. No quarter will be given. Prisoners will not be taken. Whoever falls into your hands is forfeited, just as 1,000 years ago the Huns under their king Attila made a name for themselves, one that even today makes them seem mighty in history and legend. May the name German be affirmed by you in such a way in China that no Chinese will ever again dare to look across-eyed at a German. The refusal to take prisoners was a clear breach of the laws and customs of war adopted during the First Hague Convention, 1899. Right, so you can read the discovered trivia immediately or go back to them later in the main menu. Turn off displaying trivia if you find that the feature distracts you from the story. This can be changed anytime in the options. Alright, so this is trivia, so it's not integral to the story. It just gives you backstory of characters, historical characters, and things like that. Alright. Look at that sea. Dagon and
So
the Deep
liberal,
Ones.
indeed, was the discipline of our captors, that 5 days after we were taken, I managed to escape alone in a small boat with water and provisions for a good length of time.
The audio is also very good.
When I finally found myself adrift and free, I had but little idea of my surroundings. Never a competent navigator, I could only guess vaguely by the sun and stars that I was somewhat south of the equator. Of the longitude, I knew nothing, and no island or coastline was in sight.
Man, imagine getting lost at sea. That must be terrifying.
The weather kept fair, and for uncounted days I drifted aimlessly beneath the scorching sun, waiting either for some passing ship or to be cast on the shores of some habitable land.
So even though there's lots of water around you, you cannot drink seawater. Too much salt. That's why you carry your own supply. So that forwards the story. So again, this is pretty much reading, or hearing a
Neither
story.
ship nor land appeared, and I began to despair in my solitude upon the heaving vastness of unbroken blue. The change happened whilst I slept.
What change? I see nothing.
Its details I shall never know. For my slumber, though troubled and dream-infested, was continuous.
There you go. The Lovecraftian shore. So you guys know I'm a very, very, very big fan of H.P Lovecraft's stories. Most of my designs are Lovecraftian in nature. How awesome is this? Look at this. Alright, there's Squidward.
When at last I awoke, it was to discover myself half sucked into a slimy expanse of hellish black mire, which extended about me in monotonous undulations as far as I could see, and in which my boat lay grounded some distance away.
There it is.
Though one might well imagine that my first sensation would be of wonder at so prodigious and unexpected a transformation of scenery, I was in reality more horrified than astonished. For there was in the air and in the rotting soil a sinister quality which chilled me to the very core. The region was putrid with the carcasses of decaying fish and of other, less describable things which I saw protruding from the nasty mud of the unending plain.
That is great, man. Okay. Do I have options for... Okay, let's brighten it up a little bit. Okay. Alright, there we go. Now we can actually see what things look like. Okay, let's see what it looks like a little bit brighter. Okay, now maybe this might... Oh, look at that! There was another octopus. Okay. I'll play... Okay, I'll
Perhaps
play a
I
little
should
bit
not
more.
hope to convey in mere words the unutterable hideousness that can dwell in absolute silence and barren immensity. There was nothing within hearing and nothing in sight save a vast reach of black slime. Yet the very completeness of the stillness and the homogeneity of the landscape oppressed me with a nauseating fear.
Okay, I'm gonna lower the... Okay, let's see what this looks like. Okay, yeah, okay, this seems alright.
The sun was blazing down from a sky which seemed to me almost black in its cloudless cruelty, as though reflecting the inky marsh beneath my feet. As I crawled into the stranded boat, I realized that only one theory could explain my position.
So, in case you're not familiar with Lovecraftian stories, it's cosmic horror.
Through some unprecedented volcanic upheaval, a portion of the ocean floor must have been thrown to the surface, exposing regions for which innumerable millions of years had lain hidden under unfathomable watery depths.
And there's a lot, like all the monsters have tentacles and multiple eyes and like things that are like very, very creepy.
So great was the extent of the new land which had risen beneath me that I could not detect the faintest noise of the surging ocean, straining my ears as I might. Nor were there any seafowl to prey upon the dead things. For several hours I sat thinking or brooding in the boat, which lay upon its side and afforded a slight shade as the sun moved across the heavens.
These used to be my favorite.
As the day progressed, the ground lost some of its stickiness and seemed likely to dry sufficiently for traveling purposes in a short time.
Cephalopods? Is that what these things were referred to as? Cephalopods? And I'm pretty sure they're still around today.
That night I slept but little, and the next day I made for myself a pack containing food and water, preparatory to an overland journey in search of the vanished sea and possible rescue.
Right, so now we're going to grab our bag.
On the third morning, I found the soil dry enough to walk upon with ease. The odor of the fish was maddening, but I was too much concerned with graver things to mind so slight an evil, and set out boldly for an unknown goal. All day I forged steadily westward, guided by a faraway hummock which rose higher than any other elevation on the rolling desert.
So keep in mind, guys, like I said, this is a narrative game. There's like no action, there's nothing to do. Like, you're pretty much listening to a story being told with some great visuals. So maybe for some of you guys, $10, $16 might be a lot, but I am a very big fan, like I said, of H.P Lovecraft. Yo, look at that whale. Poor guy.
That night, I encamped, and on the following day still travelled toward the hummock, though that object seemed scarcely nearer than when I had first espied it.
Look at all those tentacles, huh? So the sea became solid.
By the fourth evening, I attained the base of the mound, which turned out to be much higher than it had appeared from a distance. An intervening valley setting it out in sharper relief from the general surface. Too weary to ascend, I slept in the shadow of the hill. I know not why my dreams were so wild that night. But ere the waning and fantastically gibbous moon had risen far above the eastern plain, I was awake in a cold perspiration, determined to sleep no more.
Yeah, some of these shots would make great desktop backgrounds.
Such visions as I had experienced were too much for me to endure again. And in the glow of the moon, I saw how unwise I had been to travel by day. Without the glare of the parching sun, my journey would have cost me less energy. Indeed, I now felt quite able to perform the ascent which had deterred me at sunset. Picking up my pack, I started for the crest of the eminence. I have said that the unbroken monotony of the rolling plain was a source of vague horror to me. But I think my horror was greater when I gained the summit of the mound and looked down the other side into an immeasurable pit or canyon, whose black recesses the moon had not yet soared high enough to illumine. I felt myself on the edge of the world, peering over the rim into a fathomless chaos of eternal night. Through my terror ran curious reminiscences of Paradise Lost.
Nothing to see, so dark you can't see ahead of
And
you.
of Satan's hideous climb through the unfashioned realms of darkness. As the moon climbed higher in the sky, I began to see that the slopes of the valley were not quite so perpendicular as I had imagined. Ledges and outcroppings of rock afforded fairly easy footholds for a descent.
So you do have the option of having the story progress automatically, but I do like to take in the scenery.
Whilst after a drop of only a few hundred feet, the declivity became very gradual.
Good luck climbing down that.
Urged on by an impulse which I cannot definitely analyze, I scrambled with difficulty down the rocks and stood on the gentler slope beneath, gazing into the Stygian deeps where no light had yet penetrated. All at once, my attention was an object that gleamed whitely in the newly bestowed rays of the ascending moon.
All right. That looks very ominous.
That it was merely a gigantic piece of stone, I soon assured myself.
Yeah, it looks very normal.
But I was conscious of a distinct impression that its contour and position were not altogether the work of nature. A closer scrutiny filled me with sensations I cannot express. For despite its enormous magnitude and its position in an abyss which had yawned at the bottom of the sea since the world was young, I perceived beyond a doubt that the strange object was a well-shaped monolith, whose massive bulk had known the workmanship and perhaps the worship of living and thinking creatures. Dazed and frightened, yet not without a certain thrill of the scientist's or archaeologist's delight, I examined my surroundings more closely. The moon, now near the zenith, shone weirdly and vividly above the towering steeps that hemmed in the chasm.
I like the audio, man. The audio is very, very well done.
revealed the fact that a far-flung body of water flowed at the bottom, winding out of sight in both directions and almost lapping my feet as I stood on the slope. Across the chasm, the wavelets washed the base of the Cyclopean monolith, on whose surface I could now trace both inscriptions and crude sculptures. The writing was in a system of hieroglyphics unknown to me and unlike anything I'd ever seen in books.
Can you guys read this? What, none of you guys went to Miskatonic University? Am I the only one?
Consisting for the most part of conventionalized aquatic symbols such as fishes, eels, octopi, crustaceans, mollusks, whales, and the like. Several characters obviously represented marine things which are unknown to the modern world. But whose decomposing forms I had observed on the ocean-risen plain. It was the pictorial carving, however, that did most to hold me spellbound.
Alright, so... Okay, I can't re-enable...
Plainly visible across the intervening water on account of their enormous size were an array of bas-reliefs whose subjects would have excited the envy of a doré.
I shouldn't have disabled the trivia. So the top thing in the center, that's Cthulhu. Okay, options. Oh wait, no, I should be able to. There we go. Okay, we could re-enable them. Okay. But it's too late now.
I think that these things were supposed to depict men, at least a certain sort of men.
The deep ones.
Though the creatures were shown disporting like fishes in the waters of some marine grotto, or paying homage at some monolithic shrine which appeared to be under the waves as well. Of their faces and forms I dare not speak in detail, for the mere remembrance makes me grow faint, grotesque beyond the imagination of a Poe or a Bulwer. They were damnably human in general outline, despite webbed hands and feet, shockingly wide and flabby lips, glassy, bulging eyes, and other features less pleasant to recall.
So if you guys have played games like The Shore or The Sinking City or The Call of Cthulhu, you should be familiar with
Curiously
the deep
enough,
ones.
they seem to have been chiseled badly out of proportion with their scenic background. For one of the creatures was shown in the act of killing a whale, represented as but little larger than himself. I remarked, as I say, their grotesqueness and strange size, but in a moment decided that they were merely the imaginary gods of some primitive fishing or seafaring tribe. Some tribe whose last descendant had perished eras before the first ancestor of the Piltdown or Neanderthal man was born. Awestruck at this unexpected glimpse into a past beyond the conception of the most daring anthropologist, I stood musing whilst the moon cast queer reflections on the silent channel before me. Then, suddenly, I saw it.
What did you see? The subscribe button? Did you press it? I hope you did. That's the only way to keep Cthulhu far.
With only a slight churning to mark its rise to the surface, the thing slid into view above the dark waters.
Uh-oh.
Polyphemus-like and loathsome, it darted like a stupendous monster of nightmares to the monolith, about which it flung its gigantic scaly arms, the while it bowed its hideous head and gave vent to certain measured sounds.
That's huge.
I think I went mad then. Of my frantic ascent of the sloping cliff, and of my delirious journey back to the stranded boat, I remember little.
So the stories always deal with all characters involved going mad.
I believe I sang a great deal and laughed oddly when I was unable to sing. I have indistinct recollections of a great storm sometime after I reached the boat. At any rate, I know that I heard pearls of thunder and other tones which nature utters only in her wildest moods. When I came out of the shadows, I was in a San Francisco hospital. Brought thither by the captain of the American ship which had picked up my boat in mid-ocean. In my delirium, I had said much, but found that my words had been given scant attention. Of any land upheaval in the Pacific, my rescuers knew nothing. Nor did I deem it necessary to insist upon a thing which I knew they could not believe. Once I sought out a celebrated ethnologist and amused him with peculiar questions regarding the ancient Philistine legend of Dagon, the fish god.
Alright, so here we go. See, this is what we were missing, what I missed before, and I'm pretty sure it was about Cthulhu. Alright, so Dagon. No, it's pronounced Dagon, not Dagon. So Dagon was the main deity of the Philistines. Oh, by the way, there is also a movie called Dagon that is about the story of Dagon. So you guys can also check that out. I really recommend it. You can watch movie reviews. I might at some point do a review of it. We'll see. So Dagon was the main deity of the Philistines, worshipped throughout the Middle East as the ancient god of fertility and crops. In Hebrew, the word Dagon was a common noun for grain. The rulers of Akkad, Mesopotamia, chose him as the patron saint of their war conquests. He also appeared as the judge of the dead in the Assyrian poem and an underworld prison prison warden in one of the Babylonian texts. He is often mistakenly taken for a fish god due to the wrong interpretation of his name, as in Hebrew the word dag means fish. In H.P. Lovecraft's work, Dagon is an underwater deity ruling over the deep ones, a humanoid race with fish traits that resides in the oceans. He is worshipped by a secret cult called the Esoteric Order of Dagon. No, I can't get into the... Okay, we'll check out another time.
But soon perceiving that he was hopelessly conventional, I did not press my inquiries.
Alright, the Necronomicon. But first, what's this? The Marketer. Lovecraft's attempt to find a job in 1925 were influenced by advice he received from friends. Among others, he started freelancing for a marketing magazine where he would write announcements and commercials. Feel free to judge his copywriting skills for yourself. From an ad for Curtis Woodwork. Curtis Woodwork embraces both the usual structural units and the... Alright, so this is some information back about H.P. Lovecraft. So let's read the Necronomicon. Alright, so August Derleth. August Derleth and the Cthulhu Mythos. August Derleth was an American writer and anthologist. He also befriended Lovecraft and published many of his works through his company, Arkham House. Although he greatly contributed to the popularization of the author's works after his death, he is surrounded by numerous controversies. One of his most questionable decisions involved introducing the good versus evil doctrine. Derleth was a devout Catholic to the Cthulhu mythos, which contrasted with Lovecraft's view of the world and his approach to cosmic horror. As a result, the author's works are often misunderstood and misrepresented in today's culture. It is also worth noting that Lovecraft was never really interested in creating a mythology, and the term Cthulhu mythos was coined by Derleth after the author left the mortal plane. What are we going to read now? The scientist. These days, the word scientist is a widely accepted term, but at the time of Dagon was published. Alright.
It is at night, especially when the moon is gibbous and waning, that I see the thing.
The familiar places.
I tried morphine.
Don't try morphine.
But the drug has given only transient surcease, and has drawn me into its clutches as a hopeless slave.
Yep.
So now, I am to end it all, having written a full account for the information or the contemptuous amusement of my fellow men. Often, I ask myself if it could not all have been a pure phantasm. A mere freak of fever as I lay sun-stricken and raving in the open boat after my escape from the German man of war. This I ask myself, but ever does there come before me a hideously vivid vision in reply. I cannot think of the deep sea without shuddering at the nameless things that may at this very moment be crawling and floundering on its slimy bed, worshipping their ancient stone idols and carving their own detestable likenesses on submarine obelisks of water-soaked granite. I dream of a day when they may rise above the billows to drag down into their reeking talons the remnants of puny, war-exhausted mankind. Of a day when the land shall sink and the dark ocean shall ascend amidst universal pandemonium.
Imagine waking up to this one day. It's over.
The end is near.
What is that knocking sound?
I hear a noise at the door, as of some immense slippery body lumbering against it.
Oh, open the door, see who it is. Maybe it's Thomas.
It shall not find me.
But it shall. Told you.
God, that hand! The window! The window!
One way out! Thank you for playing. We hope you enjoyed immersing yourself in our little pool of cosmic horror. Alright, so those were all the things that we uncovered. So I'm gonna call the video over here, but I'm gonna make a part 2 for the DLC. Like I said, guys, like this is not a game that you're playing. It's pretty much like an audio book that you interact with. So I do like some of these games. This one I liked from the get-go. That's why I decided to make it a purchase so I can support the studio. And again, the studio is bitgolem, and the game is called Dagon, or Dagon, but I call it Dagon. Alright guys, so thank you very much for watching the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Come back for the second part. Like and please subscribe. I appreciate all the support. And I'll catch you guys on the next video. Giga Vega out. Alright, later guys.